just spent the first part of the day doing our telepathy experiment, and I wanted to chat with you guys now because this week I heard that Cheryl successfully predicted the Pick 3 lottery twice last week. And we've all been hanging out for a while and doing our remote viewing experiments and other kinds of experiments. And in this last year, we've all sort of been delving in different ways toward directly perceiving numbers or choosing numbers in different ways. And I just, when I saw that Cheryl won twice in 1 week, I thought that was really significant and that people would be curious about it. And then Cheryl told me that you, Birgit, were working together with Cheryl. You guys have something going on. You've had some success too, like 2 out of 3 many times. Yep. And then Kava, you've been working on direct perception in your own way too, and you've had some success. I've seen some of the larger lotteries you're going after, and you're getting like 3 or 4 numbers on a ticket.
Yes.
So it's amazing. And so maybe we could start with Cheryl, just your experience last week. How did you, maybe start with the very first win you had last week where you got 3 out of 3. Right. What did you do? And then talk about the second one, or talk about the process you're doing with Birgit.
Well, Birgit and I had the idea of setting up a spreadsheet, and that we would predict the Pick 3 lottery, which runs twice a day, and we would just sit in meditation and try to perceive the numbers, and we're keeping a spreadsheet. We've been doing this since beginning of February. It's been a while.
It's been 6 months.
Yeah, and we noticed some interesting trends that sometimes we'll pick the same numbers as each other without the other one, being aware of it. We get on the spreadsheet independently and enter our own numbers. And so I think that's really significant that we pick up on each other. And then we have runs of where we're predicting at least one number every single drawing. And then we started having 2 numbers. And like how many days in a row? Sometimes 2, 4, and sometimes for both drawings. And I did something interesting when I got all 3 numbers. I have this process that I do where I try to key up my energy and just like bring in just a lot of gratitude and joy and happiness. And I was doing that day, and it's kind of a funny thing that I do. I just appreciate everything. Like I was cutting an onion, and I just really appreciated this onion, even though it was burning my eyes. It's like, wow, I love this onion. It's so strong, and just every moment of the day, I was just appreciating and loving. And then I started playing games of chance on my phone, and it was like I couldn't lose. I was doing a ESP game by Russell Targ, and I was getting, like 14 out of 24 correct. That's like pretty awesome because there's 4 squares. So I don't know what the chances are of that, but 14 out of 24 guesses I think is pretty significant. And then I started playing my poker game, and I had so many winning hands, I started taking pictures of all the winning hands that I'd have, and just being in this ecstatic state and having all of these wins. And then I thought, oh, well, I'll check my lottery ticket. And on my Powerball lottery ticket, I had 3 that were right, including the Powerball, and several numbers that were just like 1 digit off. And so I thought that was significant. And then I was like, oh yeah, I have to do my Pick 3 now. And so I did the Pick 3, and then I just forgot about it. And that next morning I had to leave at like 5:30 in the morning to go to my dad's to help him. And so I never checked it. And then Birgit texts me later, and she's like, oh my God, you're so psychic. You got 3 of the numbers. And then was it the next day or the day after that I got...
You predicted
the exact 3 numbers that were then drawn the day later.
Oh, yeah.
It was 7-11.
Right.
On Tuesday you put that in, but it was drawn on Wednesday.
So right numbers, wrong day.
Right numbers, like
in a row, yeah.
In the right order.
Because
right
otherwise I might not have even noticed, right? But it was so obvious.
And then, so the one, going back to the one where you had the winning numbers on the right day, when you picked those numbers, I know in the days before that you were raising your energy and all that.
Yeah, mostly I was just trying to sit and just let the numbers come to me, kind of like we do in remote viewing, getting subtle impressions. This day is like, okay, I'm playing this game where I raise my energy, and I've played this game many times, and it's quite astounding the things that will happen during that day, and I can't always do it. It's kind of hard for me to do to get that high level of energy going.
So is it that you got the energy going high, and then the numbers came to you?
Yes.
And that's how you play?
Yes.
And do you just sit down and wait for them to come, or you
Sometimes it's so fast they just pop in my head.
They just pop in your mind when you're like about to fill out the ticket. They come to you, or
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then other times I'll spend like a long time in meditation and really try to, just let it come naturally, and it takes forever. I don't know. I don't have a definitive method, I guess, yet. But raising your energy, I do think that there is some significance, because I could tell you story after story of just bizarre, crazy things that happen that there's no way it's just chance.
Well, I don't think it's chance, probably because you won a second time last week. You got the right 3 numbers.
And the Powerball, too.
And those Powerball numbers. When you got the second set of the pick 3, was it the same process where they just came to you? Or the numbers came to you while you were filling out the ticket?
It was very quick. And the Powerball numbers. And I wouldn't say that I was raising my energy for the Powerball numbers. I only checked them in that energy state. I don't know if there's a significance, because it's an event that's already passed. I don't know if time exists.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, like you won the pick 3 twice, and then you got how many numbers on the Powerball?
3.
3.
Out of 6. Yeah.
Pretty good. Out of 6. So, and so it sounds like overall raising energy really high, and then just they came to you as you were filling out the ticket.
Yeah.
And all the fact that you and Birgit have been teaming up and training for months this way, right?
Yeah.
Because you haven't had a 3 out of 3, but you've had plenty of 2 out of 3s.
She gets a lot of 2 out of 3s. A lot.
Some, yes. I wanted to say also that I find, and sometimes I find that we don't maybe know what works, but when I observe her, or whichever she tells me, when we call each other out when things went well, I find when you drive and she goes into an altered state while driving.
I do that, yes.
She is very successful also. So I think that is either, as successful as raising your vibration, because that is kind of more of a newer thing.
Right.
Right. But the driving thing has been quite consistent for her as being successful. So yes, I've had...
And I would say they just come to me spontaneously. I'm not even thinking about choosing a number when I drive, yeah.
And things are in patterns, I find. There is... When we first started out, I felt I was doing better on the midday draws, and Cheryl was doing really well on the evening draws, and then eventually that all went away and switched.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of right now I couldn't even speak to that in a way, and I think for me the significant thing is that when I get to a good place, I tend to have 1 number right for 6 days in a row, or 2 numbers right for 3 or 4 days in a row. And we have the same or very similar numbers with each other.
Yep.
And sometimes some of those numbers are right, and sometimes they're wrong. That you get the same numbers.
They are sometimes wrong. Wrong usually.
But, yeah,
Where you can
but
actually-
we'll get all three of each other's numbers.
That's so
Or
weird.
they're just one digit apart.
Yep.
So it's almost like,
253 and 254. Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
so there's, maybe you're not being precognitive of the winning numbers, but you're definitely having a telepathic connection to each other.
Absolutely. We've had that from the beginning.
Yep.
There's quite a few incidences in that spreadsheet where you can see that. When they are that close, we call each other out, obviously, because it's cute.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that. I find also, though, that we have sometimes the intuition that certain numbers just appear, like whether it's a 5. Like we both have the 5 right. No other numbers, but we both got the 5.
And a lot of times we both know that it's a double number. But we won't necessarily pick the correct double number.
We just realized.
And the day that I picked the 7-11, I thought it was close because it was a 777 that day was the drawing.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, those 2 ones kind of seem like 7s. I wonder if I was picking up on that. I don't know. But then the next day, 7-11 came up for that very same evening draw. It was the evening draw, right?
Yes, it was the evening draw.
So what is it like, when that feeling comes to you, like when you know a number is going to be drawn twice, or you think it's going to be a 7 or 11, like, is it a feeling, or is it just a knowing? How do you experience that? What tells you that the same number will be drawn twice?
I think you have to ask Colin that, because he knows more than I do. Do you have a sense, Birgit?
Yeah, lately I found that when double numbers come up, they stick around. So I don't have a system, right? I've played with different ways of perceiving in order to find the one that makes me successful. And none of them have so far. So, but they are successful all in their own rights, I find. Let's just pick 3 numbers. And I usually pick my numbers when I'm in bed late at night, and it's a 30-second job, right? I'm like, 361, evening drawing for tomorrow, 878. That's it. I'm not even putting any other effort in it.
So just whatever spontaneously comes in your mind, you're like, that's it.
But it's not any more successful than when I dwell on it. I have not ever sat and meditated for hours.
Right.
Ever. I don't have the patience for it. Lately, when I give it a little bit more effort, then I have noticed, and I'm visually trying to perceive them because I don't hear. Sometimes I just know. But when it is a double number or then it appears bigger and stays longer. And I'm like, why is nothing else coming up like a 5? And I'm like, oh, maybe it's 5-5 or 5-9-5, and then I'm trying to just play around with it, and whatever feels good, then I'm gonna go with it. So I try to see, but then I feel.
Okay.
But I never got 3.
But you've got 2 out of 3 a lot. Yeah.
In a few days in a row, a few blocks, yes. So then I have tried to see them like a telephone, like an old telephone. Then I used to try to see them like a rotary phone. Then I decided to visualize the website and just see them up there as if they were drawn, on the lottery website. And I still do that. I try to envision them just scrolling by and stopping. I have no idea what is more successful.
Cool. And so, Coven, you probably got your own thing, and you go for the larger lotteries. You go for the Mega Millions and Powerball.
Yeah.
And I think on some tickets recently, you've had like 3 or 4 numbers.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your process? And
Yeah, I mean, it's very much unlike what they do in my case. So as you know, the first thing is I actually go for the larger lotteries. So the way it started was that obviously we did a pick 3 in the beginning I think it was towards the end of 2019, and that brought a lot of attention to me. Like, okay, you can do remote viewing of lottery numbers. And then I was like, the next few months were just a process for me. And last year, where like I've been doing this for almost a year, and then so that's when in the beginning it was all about making my mind and myself believe that yes, I can do this. So the aspect of belief was a major thing, and for me to view the numbers correctly, right? Because if you don't believe within yourself that you can do something like this, so that's a major hindrance. And I think that is where there's a huge component of for you to be able to believe that you can do this is the major thing for me in the beginning. And then I developed different methods of which there is a. So one of the very important methods that I use is my meditation technique. It's a specific breathing technique. It basically focuses on your third eye region, and it's just a way of bringing your attention to a specific part of the body and just focus on certain regions, and that's about it. So when you're in this focused attention space, and I combine that with certain binaural beats at times, or certain sound frequencies that I listen to, so that I just focus my attention there, right? And then so it's more like I'm trying to actively bring my attention to a specific object, or maybe the sound at times, because I don't tend to control it, because at times if I'm very comfortable bringing your attention to the sound, it's the sound, or if it's an object, that's the object. And then slowly shifting the attention towards numbers. And the way the numbers eventually come up is basically, so that's when, there is something called a signal and noise. And you've also written the book on this. So it's a pretty interesting experience. It's a pretty interesting concept there for me, because I think one of the major issues in remote viewing, and especially trying to view the numbers, is the difference about what is signal and what is noise when you're trying to view this. So one thing is, you have to have a very strong belief system that you can see the numbers. So that's the major part. And once you go above that, once you go to the next level, the next stage is about trying to discern what is signal and what is noise, right? So when it comes to signal, I think there's very less vocabulary in the remote viewing community as to say, okay, when do you see as to what is signal, right? So I think that's where a major part of my working was to understand and to build the vocabulary about what is signal, right? So I think in my experience, what I've realized is that thing like images or numbers which usually come up as a flash, right? Something which pops up very quickly, or something which pops up as a flash, or something which probably surprises you when you're in your meditative state, right? All those elements are signals there. In the sense, they actually turn out to be the actual numbers in the lottery, or anything in the future, precognitively, or might be from the past as well. So that was another major milestone for me, right? And then it was all about trying to balance the belief system and the signal, and trying to discern the noise. So I think this is this has been my journey, and that's where my focus was basically to realize that you can actually go for the big numbers, and you can actually look for the numbers directly, and you can actually remote view the numbers. And I have been able to prove this for myself on so many levels, actually. So I have time series data to show that yes, there has been a significant process. It is a size significant process, and I have been getting results. And at the same time, I think the other component is there are many complex variables within the mind, and the environment that you're in. So that also plays a huge role. And then, at the same time, I think the other component is there are many complex variables within the mind, and the environment that you're in. So that also plays a huge role. And So in this entire journey, it's really been interesting to know that you can actually I've been able to convince myself that yes, I can see the numbers, I can precognitively see them, and if I can fine tune the vocabulary of what is signal and what is noise, and eventually go towards that state and process, you can actually get the numbers right. And that's when this week in itself, I played Lucky for Life, which is we have numbers from 1 to 48 and 1 to 18. It's almost like getting all the numbers right is around 1 in a roughly million probability, right? So I was able to consistently get around 3 numbers at least once a month per se in the last 6 months, but otherwise I've also gotten around 4 numbers, where the other 2 numbers of the total 6 set of numbers were just just slight one-offs, numbers offs, or
so close.
Yeah, just swaps of a few things, so things like that. Yeah. So, but I've also tried the other bigger lotteries as well. It's been a similar experience there as well.
So I just want to go back to how you described your experience. So when they flash brightly, that's signal.
That's signal.
And those are the good numbers. When you talk about meditating on the third eye, because people use that term differently, are you talking about like the spot between the eyebrows or inside the brain?
It's in between the eyebrows.
Between the eyebrows for you. Yeah. So you just focus here.
Yeah.
And then you set an intention.
Yeah, I just set an intention, and I would realize that I would not get random thoughts when I would reach the viewing space, and then it's a very focused intention. And I'd probably just be thinking about either one thing or one particular object or anything as such, and then slowly shift the attention towards numbers. And that's when it's like a focused one object or a one thing attention. And that's when I started to see the numbers.
So it sounds like if someone wanted to try your method, they're meditating on their third eye. They shouldn't try to perceive numbers until it's stabilized and concentrated, the mind.
Yeah.
So when your mind is still,
when the mind is still,
then you can start trusting.
Yeah. So that's a very reliable way to do it. But other than that, as Brigitte and Cheryl was speaking, the random flashes. At times and at random situations, they also work out really, really well. It's just that you're in that space most of the time, and then randomly you become a receiver for this signal, kind of a thing.
But driving the car thing sounds interesting because a lot of people, it's a trance-like state. You get down into alpha brainwave often driving on the highway.
Yep.
And that seems perfect for being receptive.
Yep. I would say so, and I drive a lot. Do you find it annoying that your conscious mind is like constantly, it's like, what about these numbers?
Yeah, I know. And then you go totally crazy.
Yeah, exactly. That's where, that's what I call it as noise.
Yeah.
Something which the mind makes up, that is noise. So usually the mind wants to conserve the energy, it doesn't want to put you into that focus state. It just randomly spurts out, okay, you see, I'll just give you a number, okay, randomly, okay, this is one thing. But then that's not the actual signal. The signals are usually, something which surprises you, which you haven't consciously thought of. And at least...
So like when I'm driving and all of a sudden a number pops in my head and it's like, why don't you try this number, Cheryl?
Exactly.
And I'm not even thinking about...
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So that's a very interesting process there. And I think that's where we'll have to at least that's where I am at least trying to focus at trying to discern the signal and the noise and just because I think in my experience I've realized that all these information is just out there. It's in our unconscious space. It's just a way to connect or communicate with that space, being in the right state or frequency, as you may call it. So it's more of that.
But there is also this phenomena of we would both have a few days in a row where we would just select or just have one number per 5, right? And we're like, oh, but there's no 5 in the winning numbers. And there will never be. I mean, we just saw it. It just goes away again, and we go away from the 5 after a few days. But we both have it, and we're like, what is that all about? It's just really intriguing that certain things where we just maybe interfere with each other.
Yeah. And I think we've had that happen with double numbers too.
I find though we are surprisingly accurate picking out double numbers.
I know.
I think that is above
I agree.
average.
So you're gonna continue working on it?
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed the experiment.
Yes, and I have the expectation, my intention is that I'm not going to meditate for hours. It has to come faster. It has to work faster. And so...
But don't you think that every person has a different methodology that's suited to them?
Oh yeah.
It doesn't have to be one.
And I haven't found mine yet. And
which I thought was really fascinating.
that's okay too.
Because like this guy, like his health,
Great game.
but it sounds like
Every day it's... And I don't know, because we don't buy tickets. I mean, I don't. And, you know, it will be a bummer when you do win, and obviously you didn't invest into it. I have wondered about the intent about not buying a ticket.
Do you think buying a ticket would make your results worse or results better?
I would think, you know, because you invested energy and money into that outcome. So either...
Do you think it would be better?
Yeah, because I think I would maybe give it more effort picking the number. B, I would, you know, I just that energy exchange of, hey, I put $10 in now, 2,500 back. And I don't know, something along those lines. I just think it's an important thing, and I'm wondering if that affects the outcome sometimes. Or we could maybe have more hits more often.
Seems like, yeah, we were having that conversation earlier.
But at the same time, I'm not ready to do that with the stats as they are right now.
The comment you buy tickets when you... You're so close. All I have to do is get a couple more and boom, millions of dollars. Right?
I guess, I don't know, but yeah, I think I almost all the time invest.
his cards out.
Almost every day, I would say, because of,
So shocked.
it's as Bigger was saying, it's an energy exchange process, and there's more attention, and there's I feel that there is a more focused attention, more seriousness to the experiment or the process that which is involved, and I've also gotten better results. I'm not saying that I've made profits of the total investments, but whenever I've won, I have actually it has positively reinforced my belief system, because this entire process was also majorly to add to my belief system, right? So I'm like consciously trying to work on my unconscious belief system for things like that. So that it definitely adds to that. But the other thing that I've also observed is that once I have something like major, for example, if I've won 4 numbers out of 6, and I've probably won like a couple of $100 or so, then what happens is like my mind is like, okay, let me rest, and I'm like, hey, you can do this, and you don't pursue the process next day with the same attention space, right? And that kind of like dilutes the result. It's not like if I win today big, tomorrow will also be a big win, but still I would still get a lot of close correspondence between the numbers, but it's not like I'm gonna hit like big every day.
Right. So you need the rest.
Yeah,
it's a good thing to rest.
It seems like it's a good thing to rest, but at the end of the day, I also believe that it's just something the mind, comes up with.
Okay.
It just wants to like relax, and it's like, hey, you won it. Why again?
That's right.
You won big already. Like, how much do you want?
Right.
So it's all about reinforcing that belief system very strongly, and being very professional in that process is what it's a very interesting journey actually. So I've learned a lot in this process.
So I encourage Cheryl, after she got the 3 numbers right, to spend that money, even though she didn't invest it and got it, but just spend it in her mind or on a piece of paper, because I think that energy of spending it will just also influence her being and also the future of her numbers. So I hope she doesn't.
I need to read that. Thank you.
I really, whatever the winning amount would be.
Well, it kind of sounds like this isn't really about winning anyway. You describe a growth journey, like it's about the experience, the
So the
exploration.
potential of the mind.
And like what Cobbin was saying, it's about working with your belief system. That your mind can do these things. That's a big part of it for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like that you said that, because I think when I think about trying to go for a 6-digit lottery, I just don't believe it just because it's 6 digits. Can I even remember 6 digits?
Yeah.
But there I am putting an obstacle in front of myself.
Yeah.
If I could just stop believing that and be more positive.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that most of the times when I've actually got 4 out of the 6 digits, 2 digits, it's not just single digits,
right.
2 digits, right? So those have happened within 30 minutes of me, getting into the meditation space and seeing the numbers pop up very strongly and discerning signal and noise and everything. So. That's another very interesting thing to observe. Like, we usually think that if it's like 6 digit and people say you need to RV for probably like days together or maybe an entire day of meditation. No, it's not that. Once you reach that space, you just have to be a proper channel to receive it.
Do you mean the total meditation is 30 minutes, or you're doing this 30 minutes before?
This is the total meditation is 30 minutes.
Okay.
Well, that's a good question. Like, do you find that you're more successful if you do your process really close to when the numbers are drawn, or can you do it like a whole day ahead of time?
I've kind of dabbled around with this, and I feel that the closer you are to the draw, there is a better way of collapsing the information, and there is you get much better results. Like as what you see is what comes up eventually. Than if you have if you do it previous day, or if there's like a 24-hour gap as such. I mean, that's just my personal observation. Most of the, RV literature, scientific groups also point to that. Russell Carr's research also said that if you close it, the draws, it's much better as such. But again, I wasn't aware of that when I did this. It was just like a pure, blind, unbiased observation.
I also have diddled around with this, but I tend to be more rushed when I do it closer, because I only do that because I forgot the night before, and then it's like, dang, it's 1:30, the drawing is in 5 minutes, I forgot today, and I don't find I get good results because I'm rushed.
Yeah. So stress is not.
No, stress is not good.
Well, I would say I've used stress in the right sense. Like, there's a positive pressure, and still if you can balance and bring the calmness there. So I think that, striking the right balance is very important in this entire process. And that's, in my, as I told you, in my entire journey, if I've learned something, it's about, learning to balance my mind in the right sense. Using the pressure positively, and at the same time, staying calm. To be able to balance these states, and then you essentially reach a very interesting state where you can get these information, I guess.
I did mine last night and I can't remember what they were.
That's the thing. That is also, I find, very fascinating. We pick the numbers, and I think that's true for both of us. We pick the numbers and we immediately forget them, and then we type them in, and have been many instances where we picked a very similar number than the day before. Okay? But we have no recollection what we had done the day before, or the day before, or anything in the past, right? So all these type of coincidences of why did I pick yesterday's winning numbers, or why did I pick my numbers from yesterday again? That's just weird. I'm sure it has just to do with carryover and stuff, but we're so blanked out that we don't make that connection.
I think this is good. Thanks so much for sharing your experience. I know a lot of people out there are working on this too, directly perceiving numbers. I think they'll appreciate hearing what you're going through. And maybe when they win the big one. But I know even if you don't, like, this is so valuable.
Coven and I were talking about winners at big lotteries, how there's such a similarity that they all say that they knew that they were going to win.
His terminology is not
Like one guy even winked at the camera as he was buying his ticket.
phrases that he
Oh, wow.
And he won like a lot of money. It was like $650 million or something.
Should we all wink at the cameras?
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm going to bet.
Yeah, I think that's very important to hold that belief system, because that will positively take you to a very winning state, actually, automatically.
Right.
That in itself
And that's
is
kind of what I'm talking about with that high vibrational state. You gotta be in that high vibrational winning state in order to perceive that win.
Yeah, it's not like you're chasing it, as they say. It's like you're in that state, and you naturally attract whatever is associated.
However that works. Still have to wrap my brain around it. I'm starting to hear more and more about the nature of reality that's making more and more sense to me. So.